many research papers both at national and international level to his credit, and he's really a nationally acclaimed academician and very good orator. So sir, I welcome you to this program, and now over to you. And I am also online because it's every time I listen to you, I learn something new. So over to you, sir.
Thank you. So, as announced by our officer in charge, Dr. Dwivedi, that we are going to discuss about taxonomy of educational objectives. That in abbreviation it is known as TEO. This is the document. I am talking about the importance of the TEO. This is the document around which not only teaching and testing, every activity related to the field of education that revolves around this document. And in our solar system, the position holded by sun, because all the stars and satellites, grahas and upgrahas revolve around sun. So same way, all kind of educational activities undertaken in the whole civilized world, taxonomy of educational objectives serves as a reference point. Against that, every activity is designed, developed, implemented, and evaluated. This is visible, and you can conceptualize and visualize from this diagram. Any conscious society, nation, family, or even individual, they try to identify their needs. Once needs are identified, in the light of those needs, policies are decided or fixed. On the basis of policies, goals are fixed, short-term goals, long-term goals. Now come to this all happens in all the walks of our life. Whether to purchase a site, to build a house, or any needs are identified. Based on needs, policies are designed. Based on policies, goals are fixed. Now come to the specific area of education. Based on goals, curriculums are designed. Based on the objectives stated in the curriculum, syllabuses are formed. Based on the instructional objectives listed in the syllabus, textbooks are prepared. Based on the textbooks, teaching takes place. When there is teaching, some amount of learning, whether more or less, will certainly take place. And when both the stages are crossed, teaching, learning is complete, we are bound to go for evaluation, because we have to make value judgments. We have to declare our students pass and fail. Now, in the light of the outcomes of evaluation, results of evaluation, what we do is we redefine our needs. When needs are redefined, we cannot have the same policies, so policies are bound to change. If there are new policies, certainly there will be new goals are to be fixed. If goals are new, old curriculums will not work. When curriculum is new, there must be a new syllabus. Syllabus is new, then textbooks are to be changed and made according to what I said. Objectives are stated in the syllabus, so textbooks are new. When textbooks are new, it means content is new. Learning objectives are defined and listed in a new manner. then new kind of teaching takes place. If teaching is new, then learning will be new also. And they say that if you apply new teaching, new teaching contents, new teaching methods, same old equipments and tools of evaluation may or may not work. So if all these things are new evaluation systems, we have to adopt new evaluation systems, and this goes like endless cyclic process. Why I am showing this diagram here is that on every stage of identification of needs, designing fixation of policies, fixation of goals, development of curriculums, syllabus, textbook, taxonomy of educational objectives serve as a reference point, and all kinds of deliberations, all kind of designings, all kind of frameworks, all kind of statements are made in taxonomical terms. And just now I said that this is a cyclic process. Every conscious society and nation, after certain time, maybe 2 decades, 3 decades, we can complete the process, and that's why from time to time new education policies, national curriculum frameworks are produced. And in my lifetime, at least 3, including this national education policy, by mistake or in a colloquial manner we say new education policy, but the actual term is national education policy. I have seen 3 at least national education policies. One national education policy, 1986. Second, in between came National Curriculum Framework 2005. That was exclusively meant for you people means school education. And again, in our lifetime, we are seeing new education, National Education Policy 2020. And just now I have said that any deliberation regarding education, any policy document, whether or even you can see nowadays we are involved in the process of the NCERT is developing some online content for their 8th class students. So in that, in the very beginning, just after the heading of that chapter, we have to list the educational or instructional objectives of that particular chapter. And all those instructional objectives are stated in taxonomical terms. I have brought some reference, lines from this National Education Policy 2020, just to show that governments change, policies change, but main crux of the idea remains the same. The same term you can find in the National Education Policy 1986, National Curriculum Framework 2005, and the same terminology is used to identify the needs and fix the goals. Let me read National Policy, Education Policy 2020. At the very beginning, introduction, para 3 starts with the world is undergoing rapid changes in the knowledge landscape. Knowledge is a taxonomical term, we will see later. Then they have used the terms like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity. All these terms are taxonomical terms. So what I just want to prove the point is that every education related activity, whether it is identification of needs or fixation of policies or deciding goals, designing curriculums, are all kind of deliberations, all kind of listings are made in taxonomical terms. Regarding curriculum, our National Education Policy 2020 says the curriculum must include basic arts, crafts, games, sports, and fitness, culture, and values. These all are taxonomical terms in taxonomy. When I will open the next slides, we will go to, you can see all are educational, taxonomical terms. Again, our policy states that education must build character, enable learners to be ethical, rational, compassionate, and caring. All these are taxonomical terms. And so, and I think you are aware of the fact that in 2005, National Knowledge Commission was constituted. And the objective was to build excellence in the education systems to meet knowledge challenges of 21st century. So now it is non-functional, that is a different thing. But what point I was trying to make is that it is taxonomy of educational objectives that serves as reference point to undertake any kind of education related activity, starting from identification to needs of and till the evaluation system. My dear friends, every person has certain limitations. As sir has introduced me and told that multilingual groups we have to address, and we are not versed in all languages. So for the sake of my convenience, I have prepared a bilingual PowerPoint that I used to use in different programs. So kindly bear with me wherever you can find some Hindi terms also, but you have to avoid that. You can read the English parallels, and we can discuss the points. But however, I know that Kerala people are there, at least every educated person has working knowledge of Hindi, but that is a different thing. I cannot insist upon. This is the introduction to. This is what I have said. It is a global document containing classification of educational objectives. And please don't get involved in taking notes. We will share all the this PowerPoints we will share with you. However, if you want some points, you can note down, but don't waste your time in noting. Just read and listen. It was prepared in USA in 2 phases between 1948 to 1964. Professor Benjamin S. Bloom is the creator of this framework. Professor David R. Krathal and Professor B.B. Masia assisted in this process. But as it happens in life, there were 2 people who landed on the moon. Americans, I think in 1968, when I was an 8-year-old kid. There were 2 people. But one world knows only Neil Armstrong, because he was the person who first jumped on the moon's surface. So people remember only the first person. This is what in 3 Idiots that principal of the engineering college used to say. So here also, although you can see that in designing taxonomy of educational objectives, at least 3 persons were involved, namely Professor Benjamin S. Bloom, Professor David R. Krathal, and Professor B.B. Masia. But since Bloom was the chairman of that committee constituted to design taxonomy, that's why in common term, this taxonomy is also known as Bloom's taxonomy, And I am sure that college teachers, many teachers, they are not aware of these things because it was never felt necessary to send them for any kind of training in teaching. But to become a teacher in the school education system, B.Ed. M.Ed is a must. So I am sure that during your B.Ed. M.Ed. course, they must have taught you about the taxonomy. But what happens? No, time spreads so many dust and all kind of debris on our mind and memory. And things read during the education and courses, always we don't use them. So therefore it is, and this kind of program is orientation program. You know all the things. Dust, we are here to remove the dust and make it some more sharp so that you can recall, remember, reflect and rethink the things you already know. So Benjamin Bloom was the leader. He was the professor of education and psychology in University of Chicago. So this is taxonomy is made in America. But you see here, if you take 64 as a reference point, so how many years pass? 36 years, 20th century, and 20 years. Almost 56 years, half a century passed. But still, we have to organize workshops and training programs and seminars to make the teacher aware and understand what taxonomy is. So after 54 years, we still need seminars and programs and training activities and workshops to make the teacher understand what taxonomy of educational objective is. And you see, if it is a fashion, today it will be introduced in Los Angeles. Overnight it will reach to Bombay. Next day Mysore and Nanjangud and even Kottayam. That fashion will reach. But a document, a central reference point, a document of this worldwide importance that plays the central role in all kind of educational objectives. We are the very important part and the stakeholder of that system, but we need programs to discuss this document which was prepared 54 years ago. So this is how things are going in the academics. So this we have discussed already. The purpose of creating taxonomy, you see, before it started, process started in 48. Immediately, not immediately, for around 3 years after the Second World War was over. Before this also, teaching learning activities were undertaken in human civilization. There were schools, colleges, and universities. But what was the necessity to design a taxonomy to list the educational objectives? Because after Second World War, mankind started thinking in so many new ways. You see, you can many things happening in front of our eyes, but unless we see them from that perspective, we cannot understand them. Most of the nations, countries of Asia and Africa attained their freedom after Second World War. 1939 to 45, war was there. After 45, India, 1947, China, 1949. And I am giving 2 examples. You can see most of the slave countries attained their freedom, got their independence after Second World War. So wars bring unimaginable devastation and suffering for mankind, but this is a strange thing that wars have played a major role in the history of our civilization and culture to give new directions, new approaches new ideas, new systems to mankind. So after Second World War, there was a question largely discussed among the educationists that what is the ultimate objective of education? In other words, why so many schools and colleges and universities should be open? Why worthless people like me should be hired and given a good amount, handsome amount to teach others? What is the necessity? What is the ultimate objective of education? Then the answer came that facilitating all-round growth of learner's personality, facilitating what is missing from this slide, I will add it after for the next program. Facilitating all-round growth of learner's personality is the ultimate objective of education. Then you see, one question is asked, it is answered. From that answer, many questions arise. The moment they say that facilitating all-round growth of learner's personality, then immediately they ask, then what do you mean by personality, number one, and what is it all? It's all-round growth. When you are planting a tree or something, a sapling in your garden, and you are putting some water, some friend comes and he will ask, what are you doing? Why are you pouring water? You say that this will facilitate the development of plant. Then immediately if a kid is there, he can ask, what is plant? Then we must see that there are roots beneath the earth that is not usually visible. Then there is a stem. Out of the stem, branching will take place. In the branch, leaves will come, and ultimately flowering will be there. And the ultimate outcome is the fruits. So the same way a student is admitted in your school, it is like a sapling his parents bring in their lap and hand over it to you, and like pouring water, putting fertilizer. So all kind of educational and physical activities are like that same way, pouring water and putting fertilizer. And the ultimate objective is facilitating all-round growth of that learners, the students, that child's personality. So then to visualize the learner's personality, and unless you visualize anything, you cannot state its all-round growth, or think or imagine it's all-round growth. So to answer the question that what is all-round growth in learner's personality, so first they have to visualize the human personality, and then its components in major, minor, sub, micro components, and then we will be in a position to locate that, okay, this is human personality, these are its parts, these are its components, and education is to facilitate growth, proportional growth to all the elements of this personality, and that is sum total will be known as all-round growth. So for that, taxonomy was designed, and it divides learner's personality into 3 domains. You see, this is the diagram or chart table of TEO, and just I have mentioned that TEO divides human personality in 3 domains. The first domain is known as cognitive domain, that is related with the intelligence or intellect part of a learner. Second domain is known as affective domain, that is associated, related to the attitudes, intelligence, attitudes, and the third part, psychomotor domain, is related with the action of part of learner. So you can say human personality. Now you see, dividing a complex entity like human personality in these kind of watertight compartments is not good. It's not rational. Human being is not like that. When he is in thinking zone, when he will jump in the emotion and when he will start action, nobody knows. He or she himself, they cannot anticipate all the times. But for the sake of understanding, this division was done, and largely it is correct. Largely it is correct. As a human being, our personality is divided into 3 domains. One is associated with our thinking process. Another domain, affective domain, is associated with our emotions, feelings, and the third part, psychomotor domain, is related with our action. And the idea behind this is that what is ultimate is action. If action is not there, then all kind of divisions and deliberations are of no use. So what is required is action. So the idea behind this distribution is that all our actions are either initiated, guided and controlled by our thoughts or by our feelings, or a mix of both. Thoughts, feelings, or a mix of both. Examples, sir has told that I give very lively examples. Now I will give a deadly example. A kills B. It happens daily. You start seeing newspaper, you can find in your vicinity every other day there is a case. A kills B. A case was made, they are produced in the court, and the trial is started. But if it is proved that the killing took place under the influence of something, in a fit of rage, unconsciously, without any planning, out of some sheer provocation, then it is not murder. Activity is the same. One person killed another person. But if it is proved that it was not pre-planned, it was not deliberate, it was sudden, it was under influence of some serious emotion, some serious provocation, then it is not a murder. And for this, in our legal jurisprudence, criminal jurisprudence, separate term is there. Homicide, not culpable homicide, not amounting to murder. And for that, different punishments are there, and capital punishment or life imprisonment will never be given. But if it is proved that A killed B after full planning, doing Reiki, observing his movement of his prey, and then killing took place, then it is a murder. So, this was just to prove that although human personality is very complex, we should not divide it into this kind of compartments, but by and large, this division is true and correct, because all our activities as a human being are either guided and initiated by our thoughts or by our, feelings, emotions, or a mix of both. Now you see, further breakup is there. If you do anything in a scientific way, you have to adopt the part-whole theory of breaking down, where every whole is a part when considered to its bigger whole, and every part is a whole when seen with reference to its smaller parts. Every whole is a part with reference to its bigger whole, and every part is a whole when seen with reference to its smaller parts. So, following the same theory, first human personality, it was one entity. It was broken into three domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Cognitive was assumed as associated with our thinking process. Affective was related with, it was perceived that it is related with our emotions and attitudes. And the third part, this action part. After there, and further breakup is there, you can see. Cognitive domain was further broken down into six hierarchical components. That is knowledge, understanding or comprehension, and I'm sure that all these terms are very, very familiar to you. Just I have read some portions of our National Education Policy 2020. So knowledge, understanding or comprehension, application, analysis, and synthesis and evaluation. Affective domain was also broken down into 5 elements or components. It is also arranged in a hierarchical manner. What hierarchy is that? I will tell you. It is a ulta hierarchy. So receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization. And the third part, and as per my viewpoint, the most important part, the action part, the psychomotor domain, was again divided into 5 subcomponents or subcategories, you can say: imitation, manipulation, precision, articulation, and automatization. Now you see, in this world, I know you are sure, in general we see that process is different from product. Process is not product. Process is different from product. Means cooking is different from pulao. I think you know the famous stories of Akbar and Birbal. Once Birbal, he committed some mistake, so he was punished that he will be standing in the pond in the neck deep water. Neck deep water. And since he was very favorite and like a friend to the emperor, so he said that there will be a lamp on the wall or on the stair. Ponds have stairs, no. So on the stair there will be a lamp, so that he should not die out of cold. The king ordered like that. He was made to stand whole night. So it was only one night punishment. From next day he started coming and going. One day he tied one pot in the with a branch of a tree and started burning fire beneath the tree near the root. The king passed through that way. He asked, "Hey, Birbal, what are you doing?" He said, "I am cooking khichdi." Khichdi, you know, here, this Bisi Vilebat in Karnataka, it is almost like our khichdi. So king laughed, "Hey, pot is there and fire, you are breaking fire here. How can it be cooked?" And he said, "Sir, the same way I was standing in the neck deep water and you ordered to light a lamp on the stairs. So by taking warmth from the lamp, I survived. The same way the khichdi will be cooked." So what point I want to raise is, or prove is that process is different from product. But when we see this document, I am mesmerized every time to see that these categorizations are at the same time the part of the process of learning, parts and stages and steps of the process of learning, and at the same time, they are the learning outcomes also. Kindly see, cognitive process. First, we try to know the things. Then we try to understand the things. This is what cognitive learning takes place. First, we try to know the things. Then we try to understand the things. Then we are forced or asked to apply or translate that knowledge and understanding in real life situations to solve real life problems, or at least in examination hall. When you apply something, you are bound to face problems. Knowing about something and understanding, you can stand in a safer distance and know about anything and something and understand also. But when you go for application of that knowledge and comprehension, you are bound to face problems. When we face problems, then we go for analysis. What went wrong? What is right? After analysis, we must reach on some kind of conclusion. That is what synthesis is. And after that, now the next and highest stage is that to decide whether it is right or wrong, I should move forward or draw my legs behind. A stage of value judgment is evaluation. So that's why I said that these categorizations are listed in the taxonomy, are the parts of the process of learning, and at the same time they are the learning outcomes also, because in many cases learning stops with knowing only. Again, one serious example: you are going somewhere, you saw a crowd is there. Immediately curiosity will arise. What happened? You went nearer and you saw that something happened. Maybe a motorcycle rider fell down from his bike. Something happened. You knew you can move. Means that learning process, you have abandoned learning after knowing only. Many people will try to understand who was the culprit, how it happened, brake was failed, he was drunk. So he or she wants to understand the thing. After understanding, you can leave. But many people will call the police, call the 108, try to shift that person to some kind of medical facility. This is what application is. Again, they can leave. So that's why I said that the steps listed under taxonomy are unique in the sense that in the real life situations, process is different from the product. But here we can see that these listings, these steps are at the same time the part of the process of learning, stages of the process of learning, and the learning outcomes also. The same way you come to the psychomotor part. All kinds of psychomotor skills: riding, driving, shooting, firing, typing, stitching, singing, dancing, acting, they all come under this psychomotor domain of human behavior, students' behavior. And these are the parts of our curriculum. All kind of dance, drama, sports, and games, and yoga. These are the parts of our curriculum. And these are the... So in psychomotor domain, in physical skills, we start learning within, and let me say, language learning is also a major part of language learning, happens under psychomotor domain. So we start learning, you take example from language, we start learning with imitation. Imitation is simply copying others. In the educational setup, your teacher or trainer. Then the boy, you can see, a boy, a girl, first they are taught scripts, then they are taught two-letter words, three-letter words. After they have some kind of vocabulary, they will try to negotiate with unlimited real life situations by the help or by using that limited vocabulary. This is what manipulation is. Then the society, the teacher, the guardians, the elders will push that student, boy or girl. I am talking in the terms of context of language learning. He or she will be pushed towards precisions. In the beginning, they will speak the way they like. They will use any word for any situation. The mother, father, elders, they will understand that what he actually needs or she actually needs. But after a certain level, the student, the boy, the girl is pushed towards precisions. You cannot speak the way you like. There are grammatical rules, there are standard pronunciations, and you will be forced to follow those. After that situation comes the stage of articulation. In language learning, articulation has two meanings. Yesterday there was a very good lecture. So articulation on a very limited level, it is only pronunciation is known as articulation. But in higher order language use, especially in the soft skills, articulation means they say that when you can see, let me, imitation is simply copying others. Manipulation is using limited resources to negotiate with unlimited real life situations. Precision is doing a job with speed and accuracy. Precision is doing a job with speed and accuracy. Articulation is doing a job, maybe speaking with speed and accuracy and rhythm and harmony. All kinds of social aspects, cultural aspects are involved at the articulation level of language use. And I am not confining articulation to mere pronunciation, that I have made clear. You see, you know a little, I am sure many of you know Hindi and you can understand. Uska baap mar gaya. His father died. If it is given for translation, one can translate it. Uska baap mar gaya. It is a precise translation. In every aspect, grammatically correct, or word order is accurate. It is giving a certain and fixed meaning that there was a person, his father died. But it may be a precise expression, but it is not an articulate expression. We have to say that his father passed away. His father is no more. So this is what articulation is. And when all these attributes, all these qualities become the part and parcel of a person's personality, and when he or she can speak with manipulation, precision, and articulation without much conscious thinking and effort, then they say that the level of automatization has been achieved as far as language learning and use is concerned. So why I have left this middle part is that it is most controversial. To my view, I don't have any formal training and education in this field, but fortunately, I got some very good teachers here in I just learned all these things here. You can say first time after coming to this institute only. So, but for the last 10-12 years, I am doing the same thing. So my personal view is that although Krathwohl, after the demise of Benjamin S. Bloom, his second in command, man Krathwohl, he revised with the help of one person, Anderson, cognitive domain part of taxonomy. and it is published in 2001 or 2002. And he has made so many changes. He first change is that he made the listing ulta, means here knowledge is on the top position. He renamed knowledge as remembering and brought in the bottom position. Understanding, he left understanding word or comprehension he used as it is, application also, analysis also. Synthesis he renamed as creative or creativity or creating, and he substituted it with evaluation. Then evaluation came on the 5th position, and synthesis with a new name, that is creating, became the top, means highest of the higher order thinking skill of human beings of cognitive domain. But to my view, and you see one more information is there, that from 1948 to 1956, they, means the people like Bloom, the people like Krathwohl, and the people like Marcia, it took 8 years for them to identify, classify, and categorize 6 subcategories of cognitive domain. And in the 56 handbook part 1, cognitive domain was published. 8 years to identify 6 categories. Of course, they have their subcategories also, but I will assure you, and I think you know very well that in total they will not exceed 2 dozen. So this is, and they were not people like me. They were people like Bloom. Do you know Bloom was the education advisor to Government of India during the reign of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru from 1957 to 1959. Professor Benjamin S. Bloom was the education advisor to Government of India, and you can guess that all the foundation stones of our contemporary education system has been laid down under the direct supervision of Benjamin S. Bloom. He has given the mastery model of teaching and learning. We will discuss later. So, and after 56, they started deliberating on affective domain categories. And at that time, Krathwohl became the chairman of the committee, and Bloom remained a ordinary member. This only Americans can do. If this was our country, the person who was replaced by his subordinate as chairman from chairmanship, either he might have resigned or he has camped in the capital, national capital, to dissolve that committee. But these are their professional approach of Americans. We should learn. So Krathwohl became a simple the chairman, and Bloom remained the ordinary member. So we must give major chunk of credit of designing an affective domain taxonomy to Krathwohl. But after demise of Bloom, Krathwohl, in place of revising his own creation, he revised Bloom's. My personal and humble view, I have already mentioned that I don't have any formal education and training in this field, but after spending this much time and meeting with people like you, I think thousands of teachers we might have addressed. So my personal view is this central domain, affective domain, is more problematic, and it is obvious. Emotions are, all kinds of problems are created by emotions. And action is creating problem if it is guided by emotion. Our sculptures say, our Puranas say that Satkarma. What is Satkarma? What are good deeds who don't bound you? जो बंधन में नहीं डाले वही सत्कर्म है. So he should have revised it, because it is more problematic to my view. You see, first 2 steps, receiving and responding, when you see the original document and its commentaries made by equally great people like Grunland and others, you will see that affective domain, two steps are, they say that, relating with the classroom learning process. Means as a student, you have to receive. You see, you are sitting in a classroom, you are online, but if you are not in a receiving mode, you cannot learn anything, right? And whether receiving is happening or not, how a teacher can know? So he or she can know by the responses of the students. Many a times they are fake also. I have a different story to tell you, but I don't think time. कब तक चलना है भाई? टाइम कितना है इस सेगमेंट का? 3:30. Okay. So two steps, they say that it is related with the teaching learning setup, classroom situation. And suddenly you can see on the third stage they jump to the value systems. Valuing means acceptance of a value system. If you go for further detail, I have used brief terms, but in real document you can say acceptance of a value system, organization of a value system, and characterization means when a set of value becomes the part and parcel of that learner's personality, then they say that characterization has been achieved. So you can see the two steps are purely connected with the cognitive behavior, learning process, receiving and responding, and suddenly they are jumping towards value system. So to my view, this middle domain, affective domain, is more problematic. Therefore, so that when the same Benjamin Bloom gave a different model for countries like us, underdeveloped and developing countries, that is known as mastery model of teaching and learning, where this whole domain of psychomotor is not taken care of, and we leave it to the physical education teacher, master sahab, drill master sahab, music teachers, or other kind of horse riding trainers, shooting teachers, NCC. And this affective domain attitudes part also, we take it for granted. Have you tried to examine or test a value system developed inside your learner? I don't think so. Have you ever tried to test the characterization of the value system inside your pupils? I don't think so. In informal situation, you might have tested, but in formal situation, because it is not in our consideration as far as mastery learning model is concerned. Mastery learning model focuses only on cognitive domain, skills or abilities, that also to three subcategories: knowing, knowledge, understanding, and application. And a very minimum amount of emphasis is paid to analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. If you see new guidelines, this is the time for objective type questions. Objective type questions are meant for testing lower level abilities of a learner's behavior. And these three abilities are lower level abilities. Knowledge is the lowest of the lower level ability of a learner's behavior. Understanding a little bit higher than knowledge. And about application, there is a debate. Some people say that it is a lower level ability. Some people say that no, it falls under higher order skills. So there is a debate. Analysis, synthesis, and evaluation are, without any doubt, they are higher thinking skills. But in mastery teaching learning model, emphasis is number one, given not on the psychomotor domains, not on the, we take it for granted that if we teach them some kind of poetry like this Rani Lakshmibai, Rani Channamma, Chand Bibi, or some famous brave woman, patriotism among students, especially our girls students, value of patriotism will be infused. We take it for granted and we never go for checking them. Even those poems also, we test them with reference to cognitive skills only. Whether they can remember the lines of the poem, whether they can explain with context, like that. So, in mastery learning model, and this model was also given by the same Benjamin S. Bloom, who has created this elaborate system and framework of taxonomy. Regarding psychomotor domain, I have to say something that please keep in mind that they stopped designing taxonomy after creating a cognitive domain framework and affective domain. And just now I have said that Bloom, Professor Bloom passed away, and the Krathwohl, he, instead of doing something for designing psychomotor taxonomy, he started revising the cognitive domain. So they stopped working. I don't know why. But in same America, two women experts, Mrs. A.J. Harrow and Mrs. E.J. Simpson, I have mentioned their name. They designed, so they designed a psychomotor domain taxonomy, but that listing is different. This I am showing you, that is designed by Professor R.H. Dubey in 1969. He was an NCERT professor, to my knowledge. I don't know he is still here or left for his heavenly abode. But so we in NTS, we adopt the taxonomy of psychomotor domain part designed by Dubey. Now I have just said you that this is what I have just explained. These are the subcategories of knowledge. Now you see, this is the subcategory, three subcategories of knowledge. Comprehension. Because I said that there is an elaborate framework for taxonomy of educational objectives, and in principle, all kind of teaching learning process is undertaken to facilitate all the 16 skills, 6 related with thinking process, 5 with emotional and attitudes, and 5 with psychomotor domain skills. All kind of 16 virtues should be cultivated in the learner's personality, but in practice, I have said that the same model, a mastery learning model provided and prescribed by Bloom, we are using, where only cognitive domain is in our focus. Within that, only knowledge, understanding, and to some extent application is in our focus. And we take it for granted all 3 higher order thinking skills, that is analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So friends, we are a part of the system. We are not here to create revolutions and changes. We have to adopt to whatever framework is prescribed for us and try our best to give our maximum output within the limitations of that framework. So while making questions, you have to, and you will, if I say or if I don't say, you will certainly make questions from 3 domains only. Most of the participants, knowledge-based questions, understanding-based questions, and comprehension-based questions, and application-based questions. Let me tell you, making a knowledge-based question is not a great task. Any question, if it is a question, then it is a knowledge question. What is the capital of Kerala? Trivandrum. It is a knowledge-based question. Where is the Kerala Central University situated in? This Kasaragod. That is a knowledge-based question. Who was Swati Tirunal Balaram Burma? He was perhaps the last king of Travancore dynasty. So, making a knowledge-based question is not a big thing. Making an application-based question is also not difficult. Let me say, we are fortunate enough as language teachers that almost all the questions pertaining to grammar are application-based questions. What is application is? There are some rules and the practical realization of those rules is application. So in grammar questions, most of the grammar questions are application questions. For example, we say give antonyms. This is what we ask now. We give synonyms. Make plural to singular to plural, plural to singular, masculine to feminine, feminine to masculine. Break sandhi. Make sentences. For all these activities, there are well-devised guidelines and rules. And by following those rules, these activities are done. So grammar questions are most of the time grammar questions. The majority of the grammar questions, unless you ask about some grammarian, Panini, Tolkapian, Indra, Brihaspati, their lives and contribution, that may also fall under grammar. But those kind of questions are not intended. So grammar question you write, it will become an application. Most challenging is how to write a comprehension-based questions, because what happens is that writer will claim that he or she is writing a comprehension-based question, but most of the time it will either fall in the knowledge question category or it will left towards application-based. Anyway, understanding is always a different among all three. Application you can do by imitation also, but understanding it has to emerge from the inside. Okay. For that, the designers of taxonomy, they have prescribed 3 activities, namely translation, interpretation, and extrapolation, through which level of understanding of a person, in our context a student, is revealed. These are the 3 activities: translation, interpretation, and extrapolation. Means without understanding, you cannot do translation, and if you do it, you will be caught that you have translated without understanding. Same thing is with interpretation. Without understanding a topic properly, based on simple knowledge, interpretation cannot be done. Description can be given, details can be given, but interpretation cannot be done. So for interpreting a topic, what is prerequisite is that you, students, must have full comprehension of that topic. So interpretation is an activity through which level of understanding of our students is revealed, and once anything is revealed, it can be measured. To measure something, it must be revealed. Unless it is not revealed, it is hidden, it cannot be measured. So that, and extrapolation also. What is extrapolation is? Translation, you know that transmitting content from one language, source language, to target language. Interpretation is explaining a topic as per your will and requirements. Explaining a topic as per your will and requirements, that's what interpretation is. Therefore, 2-line verse of great poet, there will be 10 interpretations available in the books. Extrapolation, it sounds very high, but it is a very simple thing. They say that deriving more data based on available ones is extrapolation. To derive more data based on available one, what you need is that you must have comprehension of the patterns shown through that data. The arrangements you have to understand. Then only extrapolation can be done. So time has arrived to conclude, my dear friends. I will give you a very practical suggestion that while writing questions, you can write knowledge questions without any effort. I know that. Application questions also, I have hinted that most of the grammar-based questions are application-based questions. But kindly be careful while writing comprehension-based questions. For that, you must infuse any of the three activities, either translation or interpretation or extrapolation, in your question. Then only you can claim that question is a comprehension-based question. So thank you very much. I will come. We will meet again during the second part of taxonomy, and remaining things we can discuss.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dinesh Kumar. Such a wonderful session. And that was very easily articulated, and I'm sure that it has been received well by the participants. And now that it is time for the question and answer, I request the participants, if they have any question or any doubt, in the next 10 minutes, we can have discussions for the question and answer session. And afterwards, we'll invite the next speaker of the session on using NLP2 software and Corpora for the purpose of language teaching. Over to the audience now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Do we have any question? Do we have any question?
No, sir.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any part or area that has not covered by Bloom's taxonomy based on the latest development in the field of education?
I have mentioned no. This affective domain part is yet to be covered and explained and make it foolproof. And I have mentioned that if Bloom's assistant, one time assistant and next time head, Mr. Krathol, he has revised the Bloom taxonomy cognitive domain part. Maybe he is alive and working, I think. So he can go for. So many things within the, there are many gray areas in the same taxonomy that are to be revised and covered. It is a never-ending process because knowledge, human intellect and research is going ahead. So, and this document is
that has not covered by Bloom's taxonomy based on the latest development in the field of education.
I have mentioned no. This affective domain part is yet to be covered and explained and make it foolproof. And I have mentioned that if Bloom's assistant, one time assistant and next time head, Mr. Krathol, he has revised the Bloom taxonomy cognitive domain part. Maybe he is alive and working, I think. So he can go for. So many things within the, there are many gray areas in the same taxonomy that are to be revised and covered. It is a never-ending process because knowledge, human intellect and research is going ahead. So, and this document is lacking behind 56 years, I have just said. But
any specific areas, sir, which you think that it is to be included?
No, I have not think that way. I am just thinking that this affective domain classification should be revised and it should be brought and in harmony. And